Hello, good evening, everybody. I am so excited tonight. Just want to say congratulations to our special guest controller, Rebecca Rhynhart.
Oh,
I
thank
want to
you.
congratulate you on your win yesterday. And
Thank you.
just the fact that you ran uncontested, to me, that shows that pretty much the entire city of Philadelphia electorate is happy with what you're doing as city controller when you
Mhm.
can run uncontested. And I just
Thank
want to
you.
say that I'm proud of you. Congratulations to you and your family. And I look forward as the Register of Wills here in Philadelphia, we're working with you.
Oh,
Before I get
thank you.
started, yes. How you feel?
I'm good. I feel good. I feel really just honored and just really happy to be able to serve the people in my role. So, and I'm really happy to be here this evening with you, Register Gordon. So I'm looking forward to this.
Good. And guess what? Tonight, we broke Plan, Prepare, Protect webinar record. There is close to 100
Wow,
viewers. So shout out
great.
to my production team. We've been doing this for over a year now, and we have spoke to all gentries. We go to the community, we go to elected officials, and tonight I think it is most important that I talk to you, mainly because I want people to understand your role, and I want to talk particularly about a study you just released in your audit.
Mm-hmm.
But before I do that, I just think I want people who just are tuning in, who don't know who Miss Rebecca Rhynhart is, I just want you all to know a few things about her, her journey. And she has a master's in public administration from Columbia University. She resides in Center City with her daughter and her husband, family. She made history in 2018 when she was sworn in as the first woman ever elected city controller for the city of Philadelphia. I remember that night. It was memorable.
Oh,
As city controller, Rebecca serves as Philadelphia chief auditor and independent financial watchdog. Most people don't know about what the city controller does, just like they didn't know what the Register of Wills does. These are two of the most important offices in the city, if not the state. Rebecca has taken on important performance audits, including, and I'm going to read this slowly because this is one of the most important audits, I would say, in modern history as it relates to the protection of women, men, and families with sexual harassment on the job site. These audits she included city sexual misconduct policies and procedures, and also the Philadelphia Parking Authority on-street parking expenses. Because of Rebecca, the city of Philadelphia, all employees have to go through an extensive sexual harassment training, extensive, including elected officials. Okay, let me just tell you that she's qualified. She served on the Board of Pensions and Retirement, which oversees the management of investments and the payment of benefits. Benefits, guys. Somebody has to watch that. She served on the Philadelphia Gas Commission, which approves the Philadelphia Gas Works, PGW. She served as a member of the Sinking Fund Commission, which oversees investment of revenue paid into a sinking fund for payment of bond principal and interest and investments of the PGW Retirement Reserve. She served as a member of the Bond Committee, which approves bond issues. She served as the auditor of the Philadelphia School District. Oh, I know that was an exhausting audit.
the school district. You know,
Yes.
that's the one area I have. My office does the financial audits of the school district, but we don't have the authority to do performance audits, which is how to look at actually how the district is operating. Because I wanted to do that type of audit, and that falls to the state auditor general. But I continue to lean in to do what I can do to improve this school district? 'Cause that's a big issue here.
That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
I want you to take some time out to explain to the audience what the controller office is and why it is important to the city of Philadelphia. Like, why should they want the right person in this office?
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with all of you, and just really happy to be here. So the city controller is the chief auditor and financial watchdog of the city. So it's independent of the mayor, and the city charter, which is the legal document that governs the city, is clear that whoever is in the controller's position is supposed to be very independent from the mayor and the administration, to be that watchdog over them. And it hasn't always historically been that way, but that's what I do in terms of being very independent and to look at everything in the city, everything under that reports up to the mayor, the district attorney, and other offices, to say, what are the problems? How can we fix them? And pushing the mayor's administration to take action around these issues. And the reason it's important is because we need to make sure that tax dollars are spent in the right way. And I think we all know that sometimes they're not, and we all see it. And that's what I work on every day. That's what my office works on, to say, hey, wait a second. We audit things and say, this isn't the best use of taxpayer dollars. This doesn't best serve all of the residents of our city. This isn't equitable the way the service delivery is. That's the type of thing we say and do, and then give recommendations to the mayor and other office holders about ways to improve the operations to best serve the people. So it's important because my office is important because what we're doing every day is working for the people to make our government work better. And we can all see there are a lot of issues right now. So that's the work my office does.
And we have a lot of problems here, and audits are supposed to be documents that people are supposed to analyze and read and then make change.
Mm-hmm.
And a recent audit you did really was a startling audit. And I'll tell you how we sort of like crashed into this audit, because as you know, one of my campaign promises was to make sure that people understood the importance of making wills. Mm-hmm. In the city of Philadelphia. And as you know, and I'm sure you've read, that we have a problem with people understanding how to transfer their generational wealth.
Yes.
And it's resulted in an epidemic of 10,000 or more Tangled titles in the city of Philadelphia, simply because people aren't making wills and they're dying, and houses are in dead people's name with families living in them that can't do anything legal with them. And as a result of that, it's causing a lot of housing issues in the city of Philadelphia. And so I commissioned Pew Charitable Trust to identify where those Tangled titles, those 10,000 Tangled titles, because they had already done an audit to let us know that we were in trouble. Mm-hmm. And so I asked them, could you identify where they are, so we can, do some planning around how to get out to those families to get them some assistance. Mm-hmm. And so as a result of that, they did the audit. And so we identified where they were. It came out during the same time that you released this audit on the gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. And so it just was like amazing when we seen these maps. Yeah. But before we show these maps, I want you to explain to us the recent gun violence and the statistics your office released. And what conclusions did you reach when your staff handed you that data? Yeah,
so the most recent, we've done a few things on gun violence. The most recent thing we did was looking at the 155 million that the mayor and administration have been saying that they're spending on gun violence, anti-violence each year. So what my office wanted to do with this was say, okay, well, what exactly is this? Where is it going? Because people in the communities that most impacted by the violence are not seeing this money, or it doesn't appear that people don't feel like it's coming to their neighborhoods. And that, often when people feel something, it's right. Right. So,
I feel it.
yep.
I feel it. I live in Philadelphia. I certainly feel it, Rebecca. I feel it. I feel it, and just the lack of resources that's coming down to the communities to help us absorb the impact of the trauma that's going on
Right.
in our community. It's a lot of trauma.
There is so much trauma, and my office has been pushing, starting in 2019 when we looked at the cost of gun violence, which sounds like it sounds cold to say that, because of course the human impact, the moral impact is what should drive all of us to take action. But as the controller, I wanted to look at the financial impact because that's my job. And what it showed was that there is a complete cost to allowing the status quo to continue. And I say allowing it to continue because other cities have done programs and there is a way out of this. And we have to focus very strategically on the neighborhoods most impacted by the violence, and even more specifically on those most likely to shoot or be shot to stop this violence. That's what, like, the programs that have worked really well to get the violence down. So what we wanted to do was say, okay, out of this 155 million, where is this money going? And what we found was that only 21% of that money is going to what's can be classified as intervention work, which are programs that are expected to have a short-term impact. And short-term meaning within 1 to 3 years. I mean, people need relief now. I mean,
right.
Right
But now.
Right now. And what we found in my office's research is that Philadelphia has historically funded specific anti-violence programs at much lower levels than, for example, New York and LA per shooting. And our investment in this work in the communities needs to be much stronger. And I mean, you'll probably want to talk about the mapping, because I think it is unbelievable what the maps show.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She puts out the study, Controller Rebecca Rhynhart, and the study from the Pew Charitable Trust comes out with the details of where these Tangled titles are. I'm looking at the map, okay? So the map that's in red, it's the one that was released by the controller's office, and you all can see the zip codes, 19134, 19143, 39, 32, 40, which means this West, Southwest Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, Lower Germantown, and Lower Northeast. And so on the right, or the blue, is the map where the Tangled titles, the 10,000 or more, where they are. And the darker the area, the more the Tangled titles are. And to see how they, almost like identical, where the gun violence is where the Tangled titles is, which is the housing issues. And housing issues such as when you have a Tangled title, which means that the house that you live in, you think you own it, is a family home, you have legal interest in it, but it's still in a dead person name, or it could be an empty house, still in a dead person name, which means you can't do anything legal with the house. You can't get homeowners insurance. Now, mind you, these are row houses. So you need to have insurance for any type of liability, whether somebody slips and falls on the property, whether or not you have a flood, Hurricane Edna, just, rip roofs off. I mean, who would have ever imagined that Vine Street Expressway would be filled with water? Not to mention, you cannot sell the property, you cannot pass it down to your kids, you can't get the basic system repair grant money that many of the people, since we have the highest concentration of the poorest people, but yet we have a large amount of home ownership amongst Blacks, and up to 39% of the housing stock. I think that's a true statistic. So we superimpose that map, and that map sort of kind of like identical to where the gun violence is. And then the University of Penn put out a study recently showing that a 22% drop in crime on the block face when people get access to basic system repairs. In other words, and you can see it in the Pew Charitable Trust, and we just had a big conference around this Tangled titles. When you see what they're saying is that if one house that is in a Tangled title has access to the BSRP grant money to help you fix your house up, crime drops down 22%. And so when I seen this, I said, you know what? We can have a solution, because we got the stats from the controller saying where the crime is happening. We got the stats from the charitable trust saying the charitable trust telling us exactly where they are. And then now the Penn is telling us that if we can get these Tangled titles some assistance or some resources, crime will drop down. Can you just share your thoughts on that relationship as it regards, and if you got a chance to read the report?
So this is so important and interesting. And this map, when my office released the map of what zip codes were most impacted by this violence, this was over the summer when the Mayor Kenny, said he did not want to declare a state of emergency.
Yep.
Gun violence is citywide.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, to me, that and to many people, that didn't sit right. And
I was furious.
I felt that, look, the city, Mayor Kenny declared a state of emergency with the opioid crisis. And the opioid crisis impacts mostly white Philadelphians. Mm-hmm. And here we have gun violence, which is impacting largely African-American families. And why not the state of emergency? So the mayor said, oh, well, it's not going to do anything, but and so I got together with Councilmember Gautier and said, look, let's do something together on this. And what my office did was say, well, is this citywide? No, it's not citywide. Of course, the impact is citywide, but 14 zip codes out of about 40 or so zip codes are the ones impacted. And those are the ones that were just shown. The zip codes in the Kensington area, in West Philadelphia, in North Philadelphia West and Southwest. These areas of the city, my office has also done mapping going back to redlining. Oh. And then those maps directly correlate to the neighborhoods that were starved of investment through racist policies, right? So here we have neighborhoods, our people, right, that have been that have, the government over decades has done everything it can to prevent our Black and brown communities from succeeding, right, with the racist policies.
Yes.
And so then the disadvantage has then created gun violence. So all of that, and I know I'm going off,
keep it, because you're telling the truth. You're telling the truth.
Yeah.
You're hitting it on the nose. Keep going.
And I feel like as a leader, and this is, some people might say, well, you're the city controller, how does this all fit in?
Yeah,
to
stay in
me,
your lane, stay in your lane.
yeah. And I said, you know what? So
You're a
the first
mother,
year,
you're your mother. People
I am a
are
mother.
burying their kids. They are burying,
Exactly.
we are being, I can't go to sleep knowing that my son who's grown and has his own place is in the house safely. That is trauma. You're
Yes.
not gonna say it's not, if this was happening to white children, it
I
would
know.
be a state of emergency of and and by the way, even though those maps are in mostly Black, people of color area, Sharon, explain to them or explain to the audience why it still impacts entire Philadelphia.
Yeah.
First of all, if we're talking about the violence, that that saying that's out there, a bullet don't have a name, doesn't care where it hit. Just because you don't live in that neighborhood doesn't mean you don't drive through, walk through, work through in that neighborhood. So yes, there is a state of community, maybe in Black and brown, a state of emergency in Black and brown communities, but this is something that all of Philadelphia has to deal with. And second of all, when we're talking about the Tangled titles, just because you have a property in Philadelphia shouldn't be worth any more or any less than any property in any place in the state, right? So just because you don't live in Philadelphia now, maybe you used to live here, you live someplace else, that doesn't mean you don't have property here, your family doesn't have property here, your friends, your associates, whomever. And when there's no property, people aren't taking care of their property correctly, they're not paying taxes. So we lose the tax base, which takes care of all of us here in the city of Philadelphia. So both of these problems look like they're problems of the other people, but they're really problems for all of Philadelphia.
Absolutely. And I would even, yes, absolutely. And then I would even take it one step further to say, it's ridiculous that we're looking that we don't treat it like everyone is everyone's child, right? Because as a mother, and I think as a mother, you look, and my daughter is 11 years old. She just started like wanting to walk a few blocks by herself with her friends. And I'm like, okay, but it's, my heart just hurts when I see the pain of mothers losing their children. It's so horrible that I feel like every day should be an urgent meeting. Every day it should be like, who got shot last night? Who were those people? Like, what's going on? Who did the shooting? Like, what can we do? What can we do for the communities? What rec center programming? What library? What trauma treatment? Like, what every day should be like, and that, like, all hands on deck. And that's where the frustration is that I have and others have with the mayor's administration, sort of lack of action around it.
You even have to go through a thought process of your kid, innocent kid, my kid, innocent kid. You should be able to say, okay, tell your friends I said hi, and I'll see you around. You got to say, so where you walking? And well, I'll go, or well, we can't. It can't just be organic like it was when we grew up, where we could just, say, hey, long as I can see you, at age 11, but hey, they may want to walk 3 blocks around the corner to the recreation center.
Right.
I mean, our children don't even have a safe path to back and forth to school. There's no way you can't say this is not a state of emergency, because it's heartbreaking in our city. And when I seen the statistics that you gave, and I've been working with Councilwoman Jamie Gauthier and Councilman Kathy Gilmore Richardson, and they get it, and they've been giving us a lot of support, because it's one thing to get audits or stats or studies, but here's some studies that we really can solve some problems with. Because we have the numbers, we have the areas, the map, the data. It's just the resources. So what do you mean by when you say 21% of the resources or the money is going to the non-violence? I didn't understand.
Oh, sure.
Can you talk to
So
us about that?
21% of that 155 million is going to what could be called intervention work. And that work is very focused in on people looking at gun violence as a public health issue and focusing in on people most likely to shoot or be shot. The rest of the money, it could be good programs, but the rest of the money is much more general poverty reduction or neighborhood improvement, all good things, but the length of time to see violence reduction is 5 to 10 years plus. So what my office wanted to do was just to bring that to light, to say, look, we need to fund these intervention programs much higher. We fund them historically at $6,000 per shooting, which is a metric that these programs can use to compare city to city. New York and LA fund them at over $20,000 per shooting. That's the investment they put in. And we should be putting that investment in. So we're not losing more of our youth to this and then traumatizing the community as well. So that was the point, to sort of to push the administration and to be an informational point for city council going into next year's budget, that we really need to fund more of these community-based programs that that use a life coach model to give a choice to the mostly young guys out on the street that are most likely to shoot or be shot. And it's a methodology that has proven to work dramatically well, to say, we'll offer you a way out if you stop shooting. If you stop this life, we'll offer you another way. What's found in other cities like Oakland, Oakland had a 50% reduction in homicide after doing this. And other cities have had dramatic reductions. What's found is the vast majority of the young men most do want a way out. And then there is right.
Yes, but there is some mentally ill, because you have to be mentally ill to shoot somebody with no reservation about it. But it is some families, it's a lot of trauma. People don't realize, that's why I really steer clear from the marches, because you gather these people together and then you let them go home. Do you leave them with resources? Because they got to get back on that train to go back home, and you don't rekindle the stuff in their mind about the trauma that's going on. I've looked on the news, and everybody says this unanimously, Black, white, Latina, Asian, that they never seen Philadelphia in a state that is in now. Do you agree?
I think things are really bad. I think if you look at our homicide rate, we're on track for the highest homicide rate in the city's recorded history since 1960, when the city started tracking homicides. That is obviously a failure of the city government, the administration, the criminal justice system. I understand we're in a pandemic. Gun violence has gone up everywhere. But even in the years leading up to the pandemic, we've had increases when other cities have had decreases. So things are bad. Now, I think we're an amazing city. Yes. We have amazing people.
Yes, we do.
We have amazing neighborhoods and culture and arts and music. We're great.
Beautiful.
Right? We just need
one of the first original cities. Well, where the White House was the first colonies. We have so much art and culture. It's a lot of bright spots. And me as the Register of Wills, I've come up with some solutions based on your data. I've gotten a lot of support, and some of the solutions for these Tangled titles, because it's not just 10,000 people. It's not just 10,000 properties. It's 10,000 families being affected. If we can get some information out to these families to help them take care of the estate, so we can get them out of the tangled titles so we can make them be able to be vibrant and be able to qualify for some of this money. And even if they sell the property, to be able to get what it's really worth. Because although they say these properties are in poor neighborhoods, there is no such thing as a poor neighborhood in gentrified Philadelphia. You're saying West and Cobbs Creek, you know, these are 100-year-old stone, masonry, hardware floors. These are stable homes, so they are worth a lot more than what the BRT is saying. But
Right.
one of the things that we're doing over here, Rebecca, is aside from just being very aggressive with educating people about the importance of making wills, but we're trying to be able to get the information out so they can recognize that they are in a tangled title, they don't own it, and then there is some help that we can do. And so one of the programs that Sharon is going to tell you all a little bit about that we've created, and so far we have untangled 7 titles. And I know out of the 10,000, 7 may be like minuscule, you know what I mean? However, it's 7 families, guys, that now can, you know, get homeowners insurance, apply for the BSRP grant to get the repairs, or even if they want to sell it or take out a home equity loan to send their kid through college, they're able to do it. And so that's one of the things that I think that we need to focus on. We're trying to get more funding to target this area, help these families, you know, own these homes. And we came up with a program called Probate Deferment Initiative, where we would, you know, defer the fees because they were saying that the fees were pretty excessive. And the legal community said that if we can help them in that aspect, it would help them be able to assist the families. So Sharon, tell them a little bit about the program, and I'll let Rebecca respond to you know, what she thinks about the program and how we can partner with getting the information out, particularly to those ones that we found.
Okay, I'd be happy to. We know, and at the Register of Wills, taking her office and really using it in a way that it hasn't been used before, created something called the Probate Deferment Initiative. The whole purpose of that initiative is to allow people who find themselves in what we call a tangled title, when somebody dies with their property still on the name, nobody has raised an estate, and in order to untangle the title, you have to raise an estate. Well, the average fee for raising an estate is about between $500 and maybe $600, which doesn't sound like a lot, but often you need to raise more than one estate. And often you can't even access the monies that are available from the deceased person's assets until you raise the estate. So you find yourself in a bit of a catch-22 situation. So now we allow those people to defer their probate fee. And thereupon, after the estate is raised, if they find that the estate does have monies that are available to them, they can access those monies and they can pay their fee. As the Register of Wills is a collection agent for the state of Pennsylvania. So we didn't feel comfortable initially just waiving the fee, but we can defer it. And if that's a family home, and once you resolve the title, if you plan to live in it, the register won't seek the fee and won't apply interest. But if at some point you decide to sell the home, we will, by virtue of the lien that's attached, we will collect that fee. So it's a way for us to just say, if you're thinking that this is too much for you, come to us and we can start the process. Because in addition to that fee waiver, you also gain access to free legal advice and assistance. We are working with some of the nonprofit agencies. We have the commitment from Community Legal Services and from Christian Legal Services clinics to assist us. So, and that is worth thousands of dollars because often untangling titles, and I can tell you from personal professional experience, is not easy. So you get thousands of dollars of free legal assistance. You get a fee that's waived. You get the Department of Records James Leonard, who's the commissioner for that department, not our department, but our sister department, is saying
He's a friend.
listen,
He's a good friend.
he's been good. He's
Yes,
been
he's
good
been
to us,
excellent,
especially with this
excellent.
program.
Good.
And he said, once that title is straightened out, you can file it free of charge at his department. So we're all trying to do what we can to start it. And by the way, Register, we're up to 9.
I
So,
know, I heard. I
Nice.
just
and if you think about us assisting untangling titles with no budget for doing this,
no budget.
we're really
None.
using the resources of the office, the register's passion and energy, and and our staff's ability to just stretch themselves to get this done. And
Yeah.
so we know that we can do more, and that we all can do more if we sort of put the time and energy and the money behind the process.
It's great. It's great that you're doing this. And when I first looked at, when I saw that in the news, Register Gordon, your office, the work on Tangled titles and how the maps did match up, that the Tangled titles were in the same areas where the most gun violence was happening in our city, that the maps sort of matched up. And then when I started to read sort of the studies behind that you were quoting, and I said, wow, this is a barrier to generational wealth.
Yeah.
And if there's a lot of talk right now, around wealth building in Black and Brown communities, how do we do it? Here, you have a way. So it seems, and I'd be interested in talking more offline about this after this, because it seems to me that this is something that you've shown, okay, here's a way that we can untangle the titles. We've untangled 9 with no resources, but imagine what we could do if we could hit 1,000. Imagine 2,000. And then, these different corporations and companies that are saying they want to help in general, we can meet with them. So we can talk offline.
And even some of the banks who we know were redlining, and that could be sort of like a reparation to help these families that you redline, and put more into the fund. The council just put 7.3, I believe, million into the Tangled Title Fund, an additional 63 million or so in the 60s to the basic system repair program. And that was just because of our advocacy and just making people aware. And that's the thing about solutions. So we get the facts, and that's the data that you gave, and University Penn and Charitable Trust. We analyze that data, and then we execute some plan of action. So in your oversight capacity, you take deep dives into our city budgets and departments. So what more can we do with the resources on hand to resolve this crisis?
I think now that we've identified, and you've identified, that Tangled titles is a big issue, I think that there needs to be we need to, as a city, need to figure out how we can best untangle the titles in scaling it up into a bigger pool. So I think that it's about sort of problem solving around that. I tend to, from my financial background and from being the budget director for a number of years, some things need money, some things need better use. Some spending areas, if we have a good use here, then we should be talking further about this and about ideas around it. As the controller, I'm the fiscal watchdog, the auditor. So I can make recommendations, but don't actually control the purse strings of the city. But I will say that what you're doing, identifying the problem and saying we have a solution, well, we need to talk about how to make it happen. And I'm very into making things happen, if you haven't noticed. So I would be interested in working together on this.
Yeah, and so we would definitely follow up, won't we, Sharon?
Yeah,
We call,
you-
we called everybody. We are, we're headed to, Atlanta, to make a presentation in front of an investment group who are, it's called, Heirs Property. And this property is persistent around the country and is affecting, um, people of color, Black people, more so than any other, um, nationality. And so we're going there to present and see if we can get some money from there. And, we're trying to
Yeah.
find money everywhere, to, this state of urgency, because there's nothing about not having a stable home. It's nothing, pretty about houses going up for sheriff's sale.
Mhm.
And this is going to cost the city, because where are they going to live? You lose your house, you can't afford the rent, or so we don't have enough shelters. That's why you see a whole bunch of homeless people around the city, especially in the center city. You see, so I just was wondering, um, we definitely know it's a state issue, but I was talking to someone, and we may be able to look into some fair housing under the Fair Housing Act. And this should be not just a local, or it's definitely a state issue, because actually, to the tune like $1 billion worth of dead capital
Wow.
sitting like a meteorite in the most vulnerable communities. Sharon, could you discuss more about some of the things that we're doing um, around getting the attention of the state, so they can see that, maybe, they can, you know, send some of the resources here, or just figure out some of the things that we can do with these Tangled titles.
Well, the very first thing is the education and the platform that you've used your office as to get this word out is very important. And the other thing that you make a point of saying is talking about the fact that we collect in Philadelphia millions and millions of dollars that we send
Yeah.
to Harrisburg. So this is a problem that the rest of the state doesn't believe they have to the same degree. I think some of that has to do with the fact that they haven't uncovered some of these things, but because they have different systems in place, they don't have it to the same degree. Well, what we have to do is to make sure that they understand that this, from the state of Pennsylvania, we want more for our dollars. If we're sending that money and we are having a problem with the properties that we have here, to elevate the state response to that, much like you said, Controller, about the violence crisis. I mean, what's the definition of a crisis? You have 14,000 homes in Tangled titles. So it's time.
Right.
You can't wait 5 years for violence remediation. You can't address that. You can't say, I'll wait till, maybe 25, 35 more people die, and then our violence programs will take effect. We're trying to convince the state at the same time that we can't wait for more Tangled titles to happen. We need to really fund our program or some program, or talk to us about options to attack this program. We've already brought it to the attention of our Department of Revenue, but we have a lot more work to do.
And by the way, I always say this: did you realize how much we send to the state every year, Rebecca? $80 to $100 million in estate and inheritance taxes per year.
Right.
And we didn't miss a year, because we never closed down during the pandemic. We stayed open, my entire office, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And when you untangle them, you're going to get even more money and more revenue for the city.
Right.
And I'm very happy to talk to you. Tell us some of the new initiatives you have going on in the city control, or any other important audits that you think our viewers should hear.
Sure. So you had mentioned some of the things we've done already.
Mhm.
We also have we have the annual audits we do, which are part of my core responsibility. But then I've also done work. My office has done work around problems in the prisons. And then on another issue, we did a data release today on trash collection on time, the on time trash collection across neighborhoods. So looking at the disparity in neighborhoods for who gets their trash picked up by 3 p.m., which is when you're supposed to get it picked up every day. So
Okay.
those are some things. So basically the way I look at my job
Is that
is,
study out yet, real quick? Because you know that's one of my pet peeves, like the trash. Is
yeah,
that
it
study-
was, we just
Please send me that
released
link.
it.
I'll be up all night reading it.
It basically, it shows that, I mean, we did it because people were asking and rightfully complaining about trash pickup during the pandemic, right?
Yes.
And so we wanted to say, okay, let's look at the data and see what the data shows, right? And what the data showed is, yes, the pandemic we saw a steep decline across the city from about 83% on time to 53% on time, okay? But what is interesting about the data is that two things in addition. One, that in the years leading up to the pandemic, the on-time rate had been going down. So it used to be about 10 years from 2009 to 2013, 14, the on-time rate was close to 95%. And then it started to there was a compactor issue. Anyway, it sort of never reached back up. So it was at 83, 84% before the pandemic. But what's really interesting is looking at it by neighborhood, because it's not equal. And even before the pandemic.
We know that.
Right. So, and what it shows is that Center City and parts of Northeast Philadelphia have the highest, before the pandemic, have the highest on-time collection rate, over 90%. And South Philadelphia, parts of South and Southwest Philadelphia, as well as Northwest, had the lowest 65 to 75% on-time rate. So that
I know that.
Yeah, and that's not right, obviously.
No,
I mean,
it's not.
people,
I know that.
And the reason, what I want to do with, what I want to do with government in general, but what I want to use my office for is to say, what people feel like. I'm going to show
real.
what's
Say
right.
it. What
It's
people
real.
feel
It's
is
real. It's real.
That's
Yeah,
what people feel is real. We're
I
not
like
just
that.
making it up. We're not just complaining.
No.
We're not just, imagining things. We see the difference.
Right.
Because we travel all over, the big city, but it's a small city. And I go in cities, and I mean other parts of the city, and we see a difference.
Right. And that shouldn't be. And so I think that this showing it, putting it down on showing it is saying, look, this is a problem. This is one city. Everybody pays taxes. The job of government, the core job, is to create safety and clean streets, right? I mean,
right.
And
they go
so,
hand in hand. Safety
right.
and street. The cleaner the street, the safer the neighborhood. Come on, don't contribute to the problem.
Right. And in fact, since the pandemic, what we've seen is the areas of the city with the best on-time rate is Center City and Northern Liberty's Fishtown area.
Oh.
So I think that, it's pretty striking. And look, I will say this, the streets department is working hard. I mean, they are trying to add, they're trying to add more workers. They're trying to do things. But what needs to happen is that the mayor's administration, the leadership, needs to look at this map and and say, we need to fix this equity issue now, right? And how do we do that? How do we get it so that, so that Southwest Philadelphia and North Philadelphia have the same collection rate as Center City? And everyone should be 95%, right? That's what people like. That's what people expect. Anyway, I get very excited about
by the
this.
way, I want to say this. I love my sanitation workers. That's one of the
And they're
hardest
working so hard.
jobs.
I know they
They're
are
working hard. It's just we're just talking strategy. It's like
Yes.
strategy. Like it's not the workers. It's the management.
Exactly.
That's what you're trying to say.
Absolutely.
And that's what and what happens when you do audits and they either don't read it or pay it any attention? Is there a penalty for that? Because I need to give me the number to the penalty department.
I wish, right? So
No, seriously.
and this is what I will say, that many departments, the commissioners work well with my office, take recommendations, implement. When we get to findings such as this that need, the mayor's office strategy, that's where we tend to not have action, unfortunately. And I don't have the power to force implementation. So it's public persuasion, it's public action.
But you know who do have the power, guys? The electorate.
Right.
They have the power. Any other studies or audits that you think that the visual?
Sure. So prisons, we did prison.
Yeah, the prisons is like, I have some relatives that work there, and I'm like, I feel so sorry for them.
It's so horrible. And I don't think this is getting the attention that it needs. And my office started looking at this in the spring because we were getting complaints in from correctional officers and from families of inmates saying how bad conditions were. And so I approach things, okay, let's ask some questions of the department. Let's look at the data. Let's see what's going on. And it was so striking when we saw, wait, you don't have enough staff to safely operate the facilities. And that staffing hadn't been hired before the pandemic in like the year and a half leading up to it. What we found was that even though the inmate count stayed pretty constant from 2019 to from fiscal 19 onward, about 4,300, 4,400 inmates, that staffing declined dramatically. And there wasn't hiring, which is a question about why. But then the pandemic hit, which made everything worse. So when we did the first announcement that something needed to happen, the city's prisons the prison facilities were 380 officers short. Now they're 520 officers short.
Oh, I know. I hear it every day.
Horrible. It's horrible. Yeah. I mean, I went there twice in June and August to tour the facilities, to go in and see. And I've been there in past years. I've been there about 5 years ago. I've seen what it's supposed to feel like. It's horrible. The air is thick with this drug, with K2.
Yeah. I was getting ready to say that. I was getting ready to say that they said that drugs the K2 is getting in there, and which means that those prisoners are get violent towards the employees. And that's
Absolutely.
another state of emergency. So it's a state of emergency after state of emergency. Well, let's just leave with this. Let's just leave with this.
We can get better though, right?
Yes,
right?
Yes.
We can work together and lift this city up, right?
Yeah. Okay. Can you give us an audit that
good
you put out and you see some improvement? I know my office improved on diversity.
You're doing great. Yes. And you know what? Your office did great with diversity. Absolutely.
Yeah, talk about that.
Right. No, diversity, what it showed, the diversity report did show your office did very well with diversity, and definitely.
I ran on that. Yes.
Good. Kudos to
Check,
you on that.
check. Thank you.
Good job. And
I have a
the
checkbook.
district
I have a
attorney.
checkbook. I have a scorecard. Like, keep a scorecard on me, guys. Because what I say, I'm trying to achieve.
No,
And thank
you're-
you for that public acknowledgement, Rebecca. I appreciate it.
Yes, and you know, you're taking action, you know, it's great.
Yeah, people don't elect us to just become politicians. People elect us because they believe or they hope that somebody is going to get in office and listen to them and respect them and serve them. That's why and they don't necessarily know what you do. They will call your office and it could be for something totally different. And I tell my staff, don't say, well, that's not our department. No, try to help them and try to help them get to the department to help them. And I think that's why, my office is, has been coming like, I get a lot of compliments because we decided to work in a team approach. And the first thing that I said is customer service is job one. If I could still Lee Iacocca, what I studied about him, that was his saying, customer service is job one. And I get it because we are the servants. And when we come to elected official office, we don't know that that's not in your peripheral, that's not what you do. And I want to just end with this and close with this, and hopefully you can have some closing words. Is I want to personally, again, I could congratulate you on that contested win, but a win is a win.
Yes.
And I am very proud of what you're doing over at the city controller's office. And I am going to take you up on working with you so you can assist me in helping us, help people protect their generational wealth. Absolutely. And I just wanted you to give some closing words to the visual audience, give them some information on how they can contact you or your office, or if they want to find any of these studies, what link should they click?
So my office's website is controller.phila.gov. That's PHILA.gov. And that our website has every study report. And we also have we're doing a lot with mapping as well. And we have an interactive map on our website, which loads every night showing the location of every shooting. You can sort it by neighborhood. You can sort it by elementary school catchment, by police district. So we're doing a lot with data on our website too. But I would just say, thank you, Register Gordon and Sharon as well. It was great to be on and just a great discussion. I feel like, you're a leader in an office that's doing great work, and it's just great to team up and talk about the issues and how we're gonna fix them, because we're gonna fix them all, right?
Yeah, this not just come and complain about it.
Absolutely.
We with this, I've taken this data. I'm happy to have it. It's all hanging all around our walls and all our throw the data up again, guys. Let people see this data that the controller put out, the maps again, and so they can actually see what's going on in our city. And then hopefully within a few years those colors can change. That's what we want. We want these colors to change. We want to help those areas right there. Those areas are that's where the state of emergency is. That's where the resources should go. And that's what city controller says, that in order for us to be able to solve these problems, we need to acknowledge where they are and get those resources out. I want to thank you all tonight. I want to thank my guests again. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you to my staff. Thank you for that high number. And we'll see you next Thursday. Have a nice night.
Great. Thank you. Have a good night.